You can change a belief you've had your whole life, 50 years, and change it in 10 minutes. A window sort of opens up and you can drop in a new belief in 5 minutes. Subconscious mind can process 40 million nerve impulses every second. It's extremely fast. It's totally habitual. It will only play the same response over and over again, whatever was learned. It is reflexes and learned tapes. That's where they're stored in our mind, in that subconscious programming. What about consciousness? That was associated with the prefrontal cortex. It represents self-consciousness. It's an add-on. Most people don't exercise this option. The consciousness can only process about 40 bits per second. It's slow, but it's creative. It doesn't rely on tapes. With the conscious mind, you can stop a tape and play anything at any time if you're conscious of it. Most of your life is run by the subconscious mind. And this is what we now recognize, that the subconscious mind is the most powerful processor that exists in our body. And here's an interesting fact that's been understood, and this is still an underestimate. We are conscious of only about 5% of our cognitive activity. 95% of your day-to-day activity comes from your subconscious mind, not your conscious mind. Well, why is it relevant? Because people think, oh, well, I'll change my life. I'm going to do positive thinking. That's a good idea, positive thinking. Which part of the brain does positive thinking come from? Is it conscious or subconscious? The conscious mind, guess what? It operates about 5% of the day on a 40-bit processor. Then what's the rest of the stuff coming from? Experiential programs coming from the subconscious mind, operating 95% of the day with a 40 million bit processor. You tell me the power of positive thinking it will have on changing a tape in the subconscious mind. And here's where the problem comes from. And it's like, well, you can do it, but you have to use willpower. And I emphasize power, because the moment you take your eye off the ball, you immediately go back to the pre-programmed tape. Conscious mind is creative. The subconscious mind is a tape player. Why is it relevant? If I give you a cassette tape and say, go home with this tape, put it in your cassette player, play it, and then you go home, you push play, the tape is playing, and you say, oh my God, what a terrible program. You don't like this tape. So you go over to the tape player and say, play something different. I said, play something different. God, would you help me? This tape is playing the same stupid tape. Go ahead, yell at the tape player, argue with the tape player, jump up and down, get mad at the tape player, and the point is this. I don't care how much yelling you do at the tape player, it will not change the tape. You have to push the record button. And the record button is accessible. You can rewrite your tapes. But if you just become conscious of your issues, you've never changed the tape. You go 10 years to the cognitive therapist, pay thousands of dollars. Yes, my mother did this to me, my father did this to me. Guess what? I know all of it. My life is still the same. Why? Awareness in the conscious mind does not transpose itself into a tape in the subconscious mind. But there are ways to change the program if you know how to push the record button. Number one is Buddhist mindfulness. And what that means is, if you are conscious and pay attention, then you don't play the tape. I bet everyone in this room has experienced a time in their life where you did this, and it was one of the most special periods of your entire life. It was the day that you met your special partner or the person you fell in love with. I bet you were happier and healthier than you ever were, even from the day before you met them. And I call this the honeymoon period. Why was your life and your honeymoon so beautiful? The day before you meet this person, how long did it take you to get dressed? 5 minutes, you put your clothes on, you're out. How long did it take you to eat your dinner? A few minutes, and then you wipe your face with your sleeve. But now, today, you meet your special love. You're going to go on a date. How long does it take you to get dressed? Be an hour or more. And then you go to dinner, and I bet you remember every rule of etiquette. You use the right fork and the right spoon. And you didn't talk with the food in your mouth. What was different that day than the day before? You watched yourself. You didn't let the automatic program play. You were consciously controlling everything because you wanted to show your special person who you really are, so you made an effort to watch yourself. Time goes on, and then your life comes back in, and you start to get busy, and your mind starts to think about the job or the world or whatever it is. So while you're thinking with your conscious mind, then you're behaving with which mind? The subconscious mind. Whose programs are in the subconscious mind, yours or somebody else's? So your friend comes up and asks you a loving question, and your mind is thinking of something, and then you respond like your parent to them, and they look at you like, what kind of behavior is that? Did you see the response, yes or no? So you say, what are you talking about? And then the arguments begin, because now you're communicating as a different person. You're not communicating with the person you believe you are in your conscious mind. So if you were the child in the store at 6 and you were told you do not deserve, and then you're on your job in a little tiny room doing a little job, and you're thinking, I'm better than this, I should be running the company. And while they're thinking that, they're doing a job. Who's running the job? The subconscious. And what is the subconscious program? You do not deserve, so you make mistakes. Subconscious job is to create the reality of the program. So your life does not reflect what you want, it reflects the program you were given. So one way out is consciousness. Just be conscious and then you don't play the tape. A second way out, clinical hypnotherapy, because that puts you back in the same brain state that you were in the learning period. And then you can put a new program and rewrite the tape. Third way, which is some people get it and it's very powerful, but I wouldn't recommend it, is tremendous emotional shock. Something happens in your life and it's so dramatic that after that moment, you're not going to be the same person. The subconscious got it right there. After you're 7, how do you learn? Habituation. How'd you learn the ABCs or the times table? You had to repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, and finally you got it, and then you know how to do it. You want to drive a car? You have to practice and practice, and then you learn how to do it. Create a habit. And at first it seems like a struggle because it's new to the subconscious mind, but hey, you didn't learn ABCD the first time you said it. But after you do it for a repetition period, it will be so natural that if you're not doing it, your subconscious mind go, hey, what's happening? We're not doing it. And the newer one and the better one is a whole new field of belief change modalities, which are also associated with what's called energy psychology. These are wonderful because basically it's a form of super learning. And what's neat about it, the conventional things like hypnosis or habituation, there's a time element that takes a long time. But these new belief change modalities, like a super learning experience, you can change a belief you've had your whole life, 50 years, and change it in 10 minutes. This is really, it's a new type of psychology that's coming in, but it's really necessary because, as they say, necessity is the mother of invention. We're running into a world that has a lot of necessity to change very, very quickly. So we're really happy to see that there are ways of changing without going through all that anxiety and stress, and we can do it really quickly. My favorite one is the one that I use because I'm the most familiar with it, but there's many of them in my books. I give a whole list, but one I use is called Psych-K, like the abbreviation of psychology. It actually represents psychological kinesiology. And it's an exercise where you get your right and your left brain hemispheres to work in harmony, which they don't do on a normal day-by-day basis. And when you get them to work in harmony, that's called brain synchronization, a window sort of opens up and you can drop in a new belief in 5 minutes. I couldn't write my book. I tried for 15 years to write the book, and every time I get halfway through the book, it would peter out, and then I didn't realize it because my subconscious had a fear. At the time, was a respected scientist, and I said, well, if you write this book and you bring in consciousness and spirit into the book, all your colleagues are going to shun you. So my subconscious was doing me a favor. It says, you don't want to do this because this will invalidate you, it's like kill you. So my subconscious programming, working 95% of the day, would sabotage the writing. What I ended up doing was changing the belief about that. And then the book came out, it was just like, it just flowed right out. Conclusion for all of this that I'm giving you is simply this. What if you go into the subconscious mind and change the programs in the subconscious mind so they reflect the wishes and desires of your conscious mind? What would that mean? And I'll tell you what it means. You'll live in a honeymoon for every day of your life on this planet for a simple reason.
Yeah.
If my conscious mind with wishes and desires begins to wander and I default into the subconscious and is playing my wishes and desires, I